Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursdays. We're very glad you're with us today. It's February 25th, 2021. It's hard to believe we've gone through this, be the end, almost through 2 months of the year so far. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you happen to post a comment in the chat or have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your name, comment, and picture to appear. For those people on Zoom, if you're using a PC or Mac, we ask that you use the speaker view, which is in the lower left-hand corner. And you may even want to add to that the participant and chat box, because I know we'll be using that throughout the presentation. So you can load up your window with all sorts of boxes. And where that red arrow is, you can grab that white line and you can drag that back and forth to change the aspect and how big or small the aspect between the ratio and the PowerPoint slide. For those on Zoom, we ask as soon as you think of a question, just go ahead and enter it in the chat box. That way you won't have to think about it or try to remember. Just put it in the chat box and we'll get to them as our speakers take a break. And for those people on Facebook, please just enter your questions into the comment field. I am monitoring that feed and I'll make sure we get those questions answered. We are going to be reviewing one or two resumes today live online. You can submit your resume by using the chat box. Down where you see a little file button, you can attach your file. Please remember this will be public on Facebook and YouTube. So if you want to delete your header information, please do so before you submit your resume.
We've received one so far, so we'll definitely get to one.
Right. So at least we're good for one. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. I founded Career DFW back in 2008 to help the unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I started CareerUSA.org to help people outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It's available on Amazon. I facilitate and lead the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I'm doing that since 2007. The groups were around since late 1990s. And I'll tell you about our upcoming program tomorrow at the end of this session. And I've been a member of the practice interview team, which we'll talk about in a little bit, since 2017. At the end of this presentation, we're going to pick two winners that'll get 1 month use of unlimited use of jobscan.co. It's a great way to compare your resume to a job description and see how close it is. We'll do that at the very end of this presentation, so just hang with us until the very, very end. We've got two speakers with us today, Carol Brickell, who's a certified professional career coach, and Locke Alderson, who's a career consultant, recruiting consultant, contract recruiter. So thank you for being with us, and I'll let you all take it away.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. And Locke, thank you so much for taking your time to join us today and to be a co-presenter. It's wonderful having you here. And
my pleasure.
Yes, and I'll try to keep an eye on the clock, Jeff, so that we give you a full 5 minutes at the end so we can do that fun giveaway that you do. That's nice. All right, and welcome to everyone who's joined us. I see a few people from out of town, or from out of the DFW area, and it's great to have everyone here. And thank you. I know at least one person so far has submitted their. So at the end of the session today, we can look at a real live resume and talk about what we like and any suggestions for improvement. And we design this session to be interactive and fun, and we do use the participant and the chat features in Zoom. So please click on the participant box, and I'm going to do that. And if you have access to the participant box and the green check mark at the bottom of it, give me a green check mark if you have seen one of these Resume Thursday sessions before, or red X if you haven't. Or the other options, you can type yes or no in chat. And I would like you to open up the chat box as well. And I'm going to do that as well. Sometimes it takes a second. Opening up the chat box. And when you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at my other monitor where I have the chat box open. Oh, I got a second resume. Yay, thank you. That's great. Good. So everybody open up the chat box. And to get us warmed up with this discussion. And once again, we do this fairly interactively. So I highly recommend, if you can, set your phone aside. Now, if you get a call for a job offer or an interview, I'll give you a pass on that, take that call. But try to set your phone aside and really give your full attention to this, because we design it to be fun and interactive when we've got an important co-presenter here today. So I encourage you to put as much into it as you can, and then you'll get even more out of it. And to get us warmed up, I'd like for everyone to go into chat and type in an answer to this question. Does your resume have a headline? At the top of your resume, not only your name, but do you have a headline? And usually that's like the job title you're going for. If you've been an HR manager and you're applying for an HR manager job, it should say HR manager. And so some people are saying no, some people are saying yes. And if you're saying no and you don't, if you have any reason for that, let me know. Good. Yeah, some people say executive assistant. Good, good. And I know that's one of the topics Locke, our co-presenter, will be talking about today. And that is highly recommended. I've had several very smart, well-respected recruiters say it's good to do that. And I know as a recruiter in my background, when I saw a resume, if I was looking for a business analyst and I got a resume and it said business analyst, I would kind of breathe a sigh of relief and go, good, that's the kind of person I'm looking for. So good for you, for those of you that have that. And we will be sharing our perspectives about resumes based on our background. And your job is to listen to all the ideas we share, and then you can pick and choose which ideas you want to implement or not. And here's my background, so you know the background I come from as I'm sharing my perspective. I spent 30 years at an IT firm called EDS that was acquired by Hewlett Packard. And then I took early retirement in 2012. And I was able to gain 6 years of experience as a recruiter, both in agency and corporate environments. And I did that purposely so that I could really understand the recruiting industry and see hiring managers' reactions to resumes, because I knew ultimately I wanted to become a career coach. And in 2019, I retired from full-time work and became a full-time now career coach. And so I've had experience placing candidates in a variety of different roles. And like Jeff, I've volunteered for the Dallas Pit Crew now for 2 years, helping people with practice interviews. And that's a wonderful organization. And then also last year, I got certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. And somebody asked a question. I'm looking at the chat box. Do we write just the job title, or do we say applying for HR manager? On the resume, just the job title is all you need to do. Yeah, you don't need to say applying for or the name of the company or anything like that. And we've posted information about the Dallas Pit Crew in the chat box. So if you're working on your resume, you should also work on your interview skills. And the Pit Crew is the place to do that, because that's how you'll get the job, is through the interview. And now I'd like to give Locke an opportunity to tell us about your background.
Well, thanks, Carol, for including me and Jeff. I've spent 42 years in HR and recruiting and 19 years in career consulting. No, I'm not that old. At least 10 of those years overlap with one another. I've had my own recruiting firm since 1977. It's been dormant for a while, but I'm currently facilitating and help groups like the LinkedIn workshop that I'll do a week from Tuesday for Jeff here on the careerfdr.org. I've also done live LinkedIn presentations for Jewish Family Services. I was with Lee Heck Harrison, which bought out Mullen International, the outplacement firm I started with back in 2013. They bought them out in 2017, and I joined Lee Heck Harrison with them for 2 years. So some of the companies I've been with include Oracle and Siebel, Raytheon Systems, which bought E-Systems, with Rockwell Microelectronics, Litton Data Systems, and Continental Airlines out in Los Angeles when Continental was based in Los Angeles. So that's my background. Carol?
Great. Okay, excellent. Yeah, wonderful to have your perspective. I know Lee Heck Harrison was the organization that helped us when we retired from HP. And actually my consultant at Lee Heck Harrison knew somebody that helped me get my first job after I got retired, so it's very helpful. And I do keep very close in touch with my recruiting friends, especially at Next Step Recruiting. And these are their hot jobs this week. And if you're looking for a job and you haven't gotten connected with a recruiter, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can get you connected with a great recruiter. At Next Step Recruiting, they focus on the DFW area, but even for those of you who are outside DFW, some of these positions can be done virtually for a while, and companies are learning that people can work effectively from home, or from a distance. So if you meet any of these requirements, or if you just have general background in any of these areas, accounting, finance, HR, client engagement management, facilities management, any of these kind of roles, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can get you connected with a great recruiter. And that's another good resource for you to get feedback about your resume, feedback about the job market. And those recruiters can be the ones to present your resume to the hiring manager and get you an interview. So if you haven't done that yet, please do that. Good. And here's our agenda today. We'll talk about applicant tracking systems. That's a topic we review every week just because it's so important. And then Locke will share his insider secrets about your resume. And throughout the presentation, Locke, you're welcome to jump in at any time with any of your perspectives. And we'll talk about the concept of a one-page bio versus a resume. Talk about the concept of a master resume and then customizing your resume for each job. And we'll talk through key components of a resume, and then we'll review a couple of sample resumes. So is everybody ready to get going? Give me a green check mark in the participant box if you're ready to get going. Or yes in the chat box or comments field if you're ready to rock and roll. Good. So something funny. I try to look for free comics that I can download, and I thought this was cute. Hey, great resume, and look at that format. That's kind of fun. And each of these comics usually has a good teaching point, and we will be talking about formats for resumes. And the format that I use is something I built when I was a recruiter and just modified it over time. And then when I got certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers, they actually recommended a very similar, in fact, almost identical format. And then as we've taught this workshop week after week after week after week, we tweak it and add to it based on really good feedback we get from either other co-presenters or guest presenters. And so we're constantly updating it. So anyway, so we'll talk about that format. So first, applicant tracking systems. If you know the names of any systems, type them into chat or comments. If you know any names of applicant tracking systems out there, there's some big ones out there. And these are the systems when you're applying online for a job and you upload your resume into the system, they read the data in your system. They parse the data and put it in the database. So your name and phone number and job titles go into the system. Looks like we've got a third resume. And Taleo, yes. JobVite and Success Factors, yes. Good, good. So thank you for submitting your resume. We'll probably get, I know we'll get to one, we might get to two, and sometimes we get to talking so much we don't get to the third one, but if you have an urgent question, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. So these applicant tracking systems, you may hear conflicting information about them because each system is different. Big ones are Taleo, Workday, iSIMS, and then there are several others that are mentioned in
there are about 100 different ones on the market.
And Locke, do they all work differently?
And they're similar, but they are not the same. They don't all work the same way.
That's so true.
Some of them, they have purchased all of the options that go with them, like Taleo has probably 50 or 60 options that you can elect to have, which includes all the different word processing formats. You're talking about that in just a minute. So some of them just have one or two word processing formats like Calibri or Arial, but don't accept others.
Yes. So are you finding, Locke, that Calibri and Arial are kind of the most accepted by applicant tracking systems?
Yeah, Times Roman, Calibri,
yes.
Or some of them. There's about 6 different ones that are accepted.
Yes, and I think you show those on your slide. So good. That's important. And the other really important thing is to not use any special characters, underlining, boxes, tables, modified bullet points, the fancy characters, because that can throw off the applicant tracking systems. And I know that Workday specifically doesn't like hot links. So if you make your LinkedIn URL or your email a hot link, that can throw some systems off. And but you do want to ensure that you align the keywords in your resume to align to the job descriptions. And Jeff will be giving a couple of giveaways to use jobscan.co as a tool to compare your resume to a job description to see how close of a match you are. And most of these systems do allow you to upload a resume as an attachment. And that one that you upload, you may want to have it in PDF format to protect the formatting of it. But when you submit into the system, you want to put that in native MS Word. And then, yes. Did you have another comment, Locke, or no?
Yeah, you brought up PDF. Again, some applicant tracking systems do not accept PDF. So again, that's something to be aware of. Word is the most commonly accepted format. Word doc or Word docx.
Yes.
Most commonly
Yeah.
accepted formats. The PDF,
Right.
more and more of the applicant tracking systems are accepting the PDF, but be aware that it may not be accepted the way that you're submitting it if you do it in PDF.
Correct. And then also applicant tracking systems often allow you to submit cover letters. And I know as a recruiter, I never had much time to look at cover letters. I would be going down the list and clicking on the resumes. Locke, did you spend much time reading cover letters?
No, I always took a look at everything that the candidate sent, but probably 75 to 80% of cover letters don't even get read. So
Yeah.
even by recruiters.
So we're providing a simple template in chat that you can use. Sometimes it makes your application look more complete if you provide a cover letter, but I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it. So we provide a simple format. And somebody's asking the question, is bolding okay? Is it okay to use bold text? I think so. Do you know, Locke, is it okay to use bold text?
I would limit your use of bold, underline, and text formats, because if you use bolding and when you're communicating on the internet in terms of email, it's considered shouting at somebody. So again, you want to limit that. Remember who your reader is. You're trying to make impressions with them. You want to keep it as simple and short as you can with a resume.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
My specific question is what I do is I use like a 12 point for the header and the professional information, and then the rest of except for like the job title, position, I put those in 12 point. Everything else is 10 point. Is that acceptable, or is that?
Well, we get to that in a slide a little bit later, but generally speaking, your body text is going to be a 10 or 11 point. I only mention 11 because if you use Times Roman, it's a little bit smaller text font. For your headlines, I would use 12 point, and for your name, you might want to go to 14 point. But 14 is generally considered the largest font. I know when I was doing recruiting early on, Monster used to cut anything larger than a 14 point font in half. It's always fun to try and figure out the candidate's name from the bottom half of their name.
That's a good one. Okay, great. Thank you for your question then. Okay. Let me see if I can get my slide to go forward. I have to click on my screen. Let's see. There we go. So because there are so many ATS systems and companies implement them differently, and you might be hearing conflicting information about these different systems, you really just need to keep the big picture in mind and upload a resume that has no special formatting. And when you're uploading it, Microsoft Word is usually best. And if you have the opportunity, take a quick look and review how the information got read into their database to make sure it got read correctly. And then if you sit back and don't do anything but just upload your resume and apply online, the chances of you getting called for an interview are very small. In fact, I've read statistics, it's only 2%. So really the most important thing is not only to submit your resume online, but then contact a person. And that will increase your chances of getting an interview dramatically. And here's some suggestions of who to contact. You know, if you know somebody at the company, send them an email and say, wow, I just applied for this job at your company and I meet the requirements. Can you please forward this to the recruiting organization? Or if you can see the name of the recruiter that posted the job, or if you don't know the name of the recruiter, try to find the recruiting manager. Sometimes people say to try to find the hiring manager. Sometimes you can't find them, and those people, like CFOs, are often busy trying to do their job and they want the recruiters to screen through all the 300 resumes first. So Locke, do you have any suggestions about that? You know, when you apply online, is it a good idea to try to reach out to a person too?
You want to try and apply as many different ways as you can. In general, if you can become an employee referral, that's the strongest possible way, because somebody's going to either hand walk your resume or send it to the recruiter or hiring manager. And the reason that that's so successful is because the recruiter has to give an answer back to the person who referred that candidate as to why they were or were not selected or didn't select that candidate. And often when you're an employee referral, there is a bonus for the person referring you. They get some money. When I was with Siebel Corporation, we had a $2,500 bonus for each consultant that was hired. Siebel was a new company. We were trying to get our name out there. So they were willing to invest some money to pay for talent.
Exactly. That's such a great point. And so don't hesitate to reach out to somebody. Don't feel like you're bothering them. You might be putting, you know, giving them an opportunity for a referral bonus. So that's a great point. So good. Now, Locke, I'll give you a few moments here to walk through your insider secrets.
Okay. Well, one thing to think about your resume, I don't know whether any of you still get credit card applications in the mail. Well, you know what happens to most of them. They end up in the round file next to your desk. And so what you're trying to do with your resume is to get somebody to pick up the phone and call you or send you an email. Well, that's important why you want to have your contact information, your phone number, and your email, not in the header, because if you put it in a header, some applicant tracking systems do not read headers and footers. So you want to have it there, and you want to double check the numbers in your contact information, because I know I transpose digits. The resume needs to be scannable. Don't want to use templates or text boxes or fancy fonts. I mentioned the fonts to use are most commonly used and accepted are Arial, Calibri, Cambria, New Times Roman, or Tahoma. It needs a headline, the job title that you're applying for. Think about when you go to the movie. When we used to go to the movies, there used to be a marquee out front that told you about the name of the movie. If that movie isn't on that marquee, you're not going to go to that theater to see that movie. The same kind of thing applies to your resume. And you don't want to have a common resume that's for everyone. You don't want a cookie cutter resume where you send the same resume to everybody. There should also be a summary attached. That summary should have anywhere from 4 to 6 lines, kind of recapping your duties and areas of expertise, what you've done, followed by a couple of bulleted accomplishments. These are things, you know, these tell how well you've done the job that you've been assigned. And need to say who you work for, what's the name of the company or what they did. If the company's not well known, include a one-line tag underneath the company name to describe what the company does or did. You want keywords from the posting in your summary and in the duties. You need to proofread and grammar, proofread for spelling and grammar in your resume. That's vital. Carol, back to you.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough proofreading, because I would say 90% of the resumes I still look at week after week after week have some sort of errors in them, either spacing, verb tenses, spelling errors, grammar errors. And I'm going to pause for a moment because I had a couple good questions about this. One is somebody has a publication section in their resume where they use underlining and italics and such.
That's okay. That's a special section. That's an exception.
Yeah, it could be. However, underlining applicant tracking systems, if the Y goes below the line, it won't read the word correctly. So yeah, be aware of that. So that is kind of an exception. Okay. Okay, somebody told me to use a second resume. Okay, there we go. Spelling out numbers, or is it, okay. Somebody said about spelling out numbers or use the number 25. I would look in, you know, writing style guides about the use of numbers. There are different rules about that, but I think it's fine to say, if you say 25 million or something for a company, or I think it's fine to use the number and not spell it out. Okay, good. All right. Okay. I'm going to talk a moment about the concept of resumes versus bios before we go into the details of resumes. Now, resumes are, you know, a document that you use that really signal that you're looking for a job. But a one-page executive bio or one-page bio can be used in a variety of situations. Even if you're meeting with somebody to get their advice about your career, the informational type of interviews. And resumes really focus on your credentials and you use them really for job search, whereas bios focus more on your overall career accomplishments and can be kind of a multi-purpose tool. And I'm finding as I'm working more and more with my clients in my career coaching business, more and more people are putting together a one-page bio to use the document when they're networking. In fact, one time for one of my clients, I sent out one of my clients' bios to 10 of my contacts and said, here's a great salesperson. If you have any advice for him, please reach out to him or something. So, and then he heard from 4 out of 10 of the people that I sent him this kind of document. And this format, I'd looked for a good executive one-page bio format. I really couldn't find many, but one of my clients used this very simple format. It's Microsoft Word, very easy to update. And we're sharing a copy in the chat box. And I don't know, Locke, if you have a good version too, or a good sample, that might be fun at some point to share.
Well, bios are something that's fairly new and fairly common. I have not ever done one, but I think there's some good ones that are out there. I think the one that you got as a sample is great.
It's fun, and a lot of my clients have adopted it and used it, where you put kind of your key skills at the top that align to the jobs you're applying to, a very brief background, and your professional summary just listing the company names and dates, education, certifications, contact information, and then highlights of key accomplishments in your career. So LinkedIn will create one for you automatically. Wonder what it looks like. Does it look pretty? If you've done that, somebody made a comment about that. If you've done one, does it look nice? Curious. It looks just like this. Interesting. Okay. Good. Okay. All right. Good. And now the concept of a master resume. Jeff, if you have a moment, would you like to share your thoughts about the concept of a master resume?
Well, the thing I like about a master resume is you never have to think about, did I ever do that? Because what you've done is you prepare a 10, 15-page resume with every job you've ever done since high school. Include high school jobs if they're relevant to your career, if you did a co-op or something. And you put in addresses and the name of the boss and what the company did, and 8 or 10 or 15 bullet points of things that you accomplished while you were there. And then when you see a job description, you take that 10 or 15-page resume and you cut it down to 2 or 3 pages, because a recruiter is looking for A, B, and C, and you just want to tell them A, B, and C. If you tell them, I'm sure everybody's done a lot of great things other than what they're asking for, but you want to make it easy for the recruiter to go, I'm looking for this person's done this is exactly what this person's has done. And all those other things that you've done, you can talk about when you get that phone call, or you can talk about it in an interview, but you're just trying to get that phone call.
Right, good. Yeah, and I've had clients adopt this practice, to have a big master resume with everything in it, but then when you're applying for a job, focus on what you're looking for. Have a couple of questions.
Carol, let's back up a minute. Somebody asked about including a picture in a bio. It's okay in a bio, but do not include it in your resume. Because sometimes I know when I was with one company, any resume that had a picture, we automatically deleted that resume from consideration.
Exactly. Yes, because a bio is used more for networking. It's almost like an extension of social media. Like on LinkedIn, you have your picture, Facebook pictures, and a bio is used for networking, kind of almost for social networking. Whereas a resume is used as part of the job application process, and that can be tied to employment law type of issues. So yes, hopefully that answers your question there. Okay. I'm going to try that trick on LinkedIn. Somebody posted, yeah, go to your profile, hit the more button, and yeah, save to PDF. It creates a bio from your profile. Yeah, I wondered if that was a longer document. I'm going to give that a try. Good. Yeah, we always learn something during these sessions. I learn a lot by reading the chat comments. That's great. So now we'll talk about characteristics of resumes. We'll spend a few minutes on this, and then we'll get to showing the actual example resumes. And the goal is to make it very easy for ATS systems and screeners to make sure that you are a good match for a job. So you want to make it easy. You want to make the formatting clean, lots of white space. You want the words to jump out so that the recruiter within a few seconds can say, yes, this is the kind of person I'm looking for. And overall length, when I ask recruiter friends and people, the sweet spot tends to be around 2 pages for a full professional resume, sometimes longer for more technical or higher education, government jobs. Locke, do you have a preference regarding length of resume or?
Well, 2 to 3 pages is good. I worked with a candidate earlier this week. He had a 1-page resume and he tried to condense everything he'd done since college into 1 page. And he had too much information. It was too small, too hard to read.
Yeah, you want to do that. And somebody did ask a question. So when you're applying online, do you submit the bio or the resume? The resume. When you're applying online, you submit your resume that's aligned to that job. The bio documents used more for social interaction networking and informational interviews. So hopefully that's clear on that. So now we'll talk about number of years to show on your resume. And this is where you have some options. And we can launch a polling question for those that are in Zoom and those in FaceTime, Facebook Live, you can type in the letters here. So I'm curious from people, how many years do you show on your resume? A, all of your experience? That's what I did when I applied for a job at the age of 59, believe it or not, and I got the job, but they knew my background and and they knew I'd been at EDS forever. So I just showed everything, but I don't know if that's always the best option. And then as a recruiter, I saw option B a lot. And it would usually raise questions. Because if their only job titles were director and VP, I'm like, didn't you have other experience before this? And then often during the interview process, if I asked about, tell me about a time you had managed a challenging project and they referred to a company that wasn't on their resume, it would cause confusion in the resume. So I found hiring managers really preferred option C more, where people spend more time and detail outlining the information in the most recent 10, 15, or maybe 20 years, but then have a section called prior relevant experience where you list the company names and your titles, but you don't have to put the dates on the resume. You don't have to do that. And I found hiring managers liked that better because then they felt like they were getting the full story. Option B, you feel like you're not getting the full story and you feel like something's being hidden. So. Yeah, I don't know. Locke, did you have any opinions about how many years of experience to show on your resume or any preferences?
Definitely C.
Okay. Yeah. I found that's a good third alternative. And then a question I get a lot about resumes is how to fill a gap, either between jobs or now. People that were laid off at the beginning of the pandemic, here we are a year later, and many people are still looking for jobs. And so that leaves kind of a long gap time. And so I ask people, what are you doing in addition to your job search? Are you doing any community leadership or consulting work using your skills, even if it's pro bono? Are you doing any continuing education and getting certifications? And if so, you might be able to list those on your resume if you've done them a lot. Like for example, if I were to put a gap filler on the top part of my resume, I would put something like community leadership and consulting instead of a company name. I would put, like one bullet would be I serve as a panelist and coach for the Dallas Pit Crew. And when you put something here, it has to be something that you're doing a lot of, not just 1 hour once, because otherwise recruiters may pick up that you're just trying to fill in your resume. But, I've been serving as a panelist week after week for 2 years. So, that's pretty significant. And then I provide consulting services for a local nonprofit organization when they're hiring new people. So make sure it's significant, but those are some options or ideas of what you could put on your resume to show that you're actively doing something and giving back to the community.
The other thing that you could do is to drop the month and just use the year as you've done here in your example.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So 1 month will cover 1 month will cover a year if you were just doing it at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. Good, good. And then these are the key components we'll be talking about in a resume. And there may be other components, as somebody had mentioned, they have a publication section or certifications, or maybe, so there might be other sections as well, but we'll cover these sections. We'll kind of go through this quickly so we can get through to our example resumes. So first of all, your heading, want to have your name front and center, 4 types of contact information, phone number, closest major city, zip code if you want. Some recruiters like to see that. And then on the other hand, there have been some employment law issues with zip code. So it's kind of a personal preference. Email, LinkedIn URL, no physical street address. And then my favorite part of the resume is the summary. And this is where you have the headline. This is where you have the job title that you're applying to if you have that background. And then you want a very brief summary statement. I say 3 lines because as a recruiter, I might read just the first 6 words. I may not even read the whole paragraph. And then areas of expertise with keywords that align to the job description. The top 3 across the top and in the first column need to be front and center, the top skills required. Okay.
Well, you've combined skills and areas of expertise in that one, Carol.
Skills and areas of expertise, yes. And then Locke, do you think software skills are okay to list at the bottom of the resume separately?
Well, they could be listed at the top of the resume. As a recruiter for IT people, I was always like to know what they'd done in terms of hardware, software, the platforms they might have worked with, the application software, what operating systems, what methodologies they may have used, which you've included in your example here.
That's true. And that might be, you're giving me an idea. It might be good to have an example of a highly technical resume where you do include some of those categories, additional technical categories at the top as well. This is more for a kind of a business professional type of person. So that's a very good point, Locke. And then another section after your skills and areas of expertise, you can do this if you wish, have overall accomplishments in your career. And I see this especially in sales and business development types of roles, or things that are very quantifiable, or even recruiting roles where you're showing a track record of meeting targets. Do you have any thoughts about this kind of section at the top of a resume?
Yeah, I encourage that you have a couple of key accomplishments. You don't need to have 4, but you may have 1 or 2 or 3. Those accomplishments can also appear down in the body text of your resume as well. And you may want to change out some of the accomplishments with each resume that you send out, so that the accomplishments are keyed to the title of the job that you had or you're seeking.
Great, good, thank you. And then in your professional experience section, you want to make the formatting really clean, easy to read, parallel verbs, especially for jobs in the past, please have your verbs be consistently in the past tense. You wouldn't believe how many resumes I see where it's a mixture of tenses, ing, all different tenses. Now with a current job, it may be mostly in the present tense, but then you may have had an accomplishment and you have to put that in the past tense, maybe if it's something that's completed. So you may have a little mixture of present tense jobs. Okay. All right. And then also we've had one of our guest speakers recommend, especially if it's a company that is not very well known, to have a one-liner about that company to point out the industry and the type of company it was. That helps recruiters really learn about your background. And then for your professional experience, you want to limit the number of bullets. You don't want to have 10, 15 bullets per job. That's too many. Nobody's going to read that many. And your bullets should focus more on results, and it shouldn't read just like a list of tasks.
Alternative to that, they may have three or four lines that describe the duties and then the accomplishments as bullets.
Yes, I've seen some resumes do that really well as well. And one game that I play with my clients, when I'm helping them convert their bullets to just kind of, it sounds like tasks to more accomplishments, we play the so what game. And here's an actual kind of a more recent example. When I was working with somebody, a marketing person, they had a bullet point in their professional experience where they guided the next phase of brand evolution for a multimedia artist. But I said, well, so what? It's a funny way of asking, what was the result or what was the outcome? And then she thought about it and goes, well, it increased the business opportunities for the client and it led to 10 new commissions. So then she realized she needed to change the verb to make it stronger, as a stronger accomplishment. So she increased the business opportunities, including 10 new commissions for compliant, based on, and then she actually modified the language to align more with the job description. She had used production and publishing, but they were using other terms. And so she aligned more to the language that they used as well. So playing the so what game can kind of help you turn your bullet points into more accomplishments. And then if you've had multiple roles at a company, we recommend putting the dates right next to those job titles, and don't justify all those dates for all those titles, because then it looks like you're a job hopper. But if you do it the way we're illustrating it here, it shows a better story. It shows the longevity at the company and the fact that you might have been promoted when you're at that company. And if you're like me and you've worked for a company that changed names, how do you handle that on your resume? And there are a couple different options. You could give the current name, followed by the old name, or the old name with the date of the acquisition. So on my resume, when I retired from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Services, it said Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Services, formerly EDS. I could have said EDS, acquired by Hewlett-Packard. I could have done that. So there are a couple different options there. And you want to be sure to include your education and software skills, especially if the job is looking for particular software skills. And if you don't have a degree, don't put bachelor's. If you're in the bachelor's program but didn't get a degree, just put the school, the city, state, and maybe your major or area of concentration, and maybe the number of credit hours. So that's a way to handle that. And somebody asked me, oh, this is a private message, but they're asking me if they could connect with me. Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I think there's only one Carol Brickell in Dallas who's a career coach. So feel free to connect with me, and be happy to get you in touch with a recruiter. And I encourage all of you to do that. Work with at least 1 or 2 recruiters. Okay, so now I'm going to show my favorite slide real quickly. And let's see. I'm going to try to do something here. Anyway, I'm going to try to turn off the name thing with the annotation, but I'm going to go ahead and keep talking just for the sake of time. What this slide shows on the left is a job description for a business analyst job and a resume. And I recommend every time you apply for a job, take a few moments. It doesn't have to be hours, just take a few minutes and really study the job description. Pull out the keywords, the skills they're looking for, especially the bottom of the job description where it'll say requirements or qualifications or here's what you bring. Look for the methodologies that they're looking for. Make sure they're listed on your resume, and look for any software skills and make sure those are listed. And skills, they mentioned documenting business requirements a couple different places, list that. And I guess the guest speaker last week, Rex, said that you should try to have 20 matches. Is that what he said last week, Locke or Jeff? I heard some of the presentation. It was good.
Well, it could be you want at least half a dozen. I know when I was a recruiter and I'm looking for a candidate, when I moved from Siebel over to Oracle, because Oracle bought Siebel, I was looking for a Siebel consultant in Minneapolis. And so 75 resumes were sent in, 50 of them didn't even have the word Siebel in the resume. So they were automatically out. Then I would look and see how many times Siebel was mentioned in the resume. Once they might have used Siebel as a software product. 10 times they might have installed Siebel as a product, which was what I was looking for.
Oh, got it. Yeah. So the frequency is important. And somebody asked a good question. you know, shouldn't everybody know Microsoft Word? But if the job description asks for it, put it in, because that'll give you more points. And so if it asks for it, or Excel, and most accounting jobs, they want people that are strong in Excel, and maybe say Excel, including pivot tables and VLOOKUPs. Okay. Never heard of Visio. Okay. All right. So when people ask me, should they include something on their resume, I say it depends. What does it say in the job description? Great. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to stop share and get over to our resumes. Somebody mentioned they sent me 2 versions. Let's see what the first one was. I know we'll get to the first one. And I don't know if I have that second version. Okay, I think I do. Okay, let me see if I pull up the right one.
While you're doing that, Carol, I'll mention one important point on your resume. You always want to have the city, state, and a zip code. And the reason for zip code is many searches start with a distance from the job. And the way that they determine a distance from a job is by your zip code. When you look for a job, you may be only willing to drive 15 or 20 miles to the closest job. So if you have that, you want to put the zip code on there. If you're outside of an area, like if you live in Denton, we'll consider Dallas or Fort Worth, there are ways to get around that as well.
Thank you. That's a good point. And yeah, I had a client that literally would not accept anybody that was outside of 25-mile radius. Can you see this resume on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So what I'm going to do is scroll down the resume and have everybody, take a look at it. We'll spend about 7 seconds like a recruiter does. And then I'd like for people to go into chat and type in things they like about the resume. And if you see any suggestions for improvement, and I'll definitely see, Locke, if you have any suggestions. So we'll scroll through it. Contact information, summary, professional experience. And then there's a header on the second page. Personal preference there, whether to do that. Oh, technical papers. Yeah, there we go. Okay, with a hot link. Yeah, okay.
Hot links are custom like that. I like them, but some applicant tracking systems will not accept them. So, but by bringing up a resume with a hot link on it, I can automatically go to your LinkedIn profile without having to change on it. So the email that's a hot link, I can automatically brings up your email address, so I can just drop you an email. So there's something to be said for including it or not including it. It's up to you.
Yeah.
So mine
I just know Workday doesn't like them, but that's one system. But yeah, okay.
So my initial thing is you don't need to say email, you don't need to say LinkedIn, you don't need to say phone. If the person doesn't know what those 3 things are, you don't want them calling you. Okay, so save that space, make it more white space. It'll be a little bit easier. Also, you have a space in between your zip codes, and that's not correct formatting. Between the dash, there should not be a space before and after the dash.
Yes, and the email, I hear that it's good to have an email that looks like a professional email. And usually that's a last name, first name. And then if you need to add some numbers to make it unique, something like this, because this might be hard for people to remember and to find in their emails. Because I know when people have reached out to me and then I try to find their email, if they have an email that's not their name, sometimes it's hard for me to find it. So you want to make it easy for the recruiter to remember you. And if you don't go by Richard J, I would take off the J and take it off of your LinkedIn. You want to make it real easy for people to find and remember you.
Carol, we have a comment about the pipe character between product development and mechanical engineer. That is accepted, but only accepted because there's a space on either side of it. If you don't put the space, or if you use a backslash and don't put a space on either side of it, that word is not a searchable term in the applicant tracking system.
Yes, and yeah, it is an acceptable character because it's on the standard keyboard, but you're absolutely correct, the space before and after. Now I do wonder about this because I'm wondering what's the headline? Because it says career summary. I think what
He's This is a more generic resume, it looks like, and he's used 3 headlines: product development, mechanical engineering, and drivetrain. Okay, so again, I would be more specific with your headline because it may pick up the headline, the job title, but it may not.
Right. And these don't look like job titles. The product development is a function, engineering is a function. So I would delete that line, and I would delete career summary, and I'd put the job title where it says career summary, and that's your headline. Whatever, if you're applying for a mechanical engineer job, put mechanical engineer. That's what I would recommend there. Good. Okay, career summary, that's 4 lines. I probably wouldn't read all that. I would make it 3 lines. And you have 2 columns with your areas of expertise. And since yours are longer, kind of more technical, I think I like the formatting of that. Now, where I got hung up a little bit with the formatting was, okay, the company name dash city, then there's something here, and then a title. This looks a little messy to me.
You've got a tagline. I dropped the tagline under Meritor and put the dates that he worked there out to the right, like he's done with the job title.
Yes. Yeah, I'd rework that. And typically what I do is put the company name, comma, without the dash, city, state, and then write justified in bold the length of time you're at that company. So everything on that line is in bold. And then have your senior technical expert title. Reported to chief engineer, global carriers.
That's a good, it's a pretty good technical resume, Carol, overall.
Yeah, just the formatting along this looks kind of messy to me. Yeah, so let's see. Formatted and good verbs, past tense.
Here's where he's worked for those 2 jobs there at the same company from 2011 to 2018. So here's where you want to have SKF, and you want to put 2011 to 2018.
2018, right.
And then next to the job title in parentheses is where you put those dates.
Yes.
Because it looks like you jumped jobs where actually you worked for the same company and you want to show longevity.
Right, exactly. And maybe move this, you really want this here about co-reported to whoever you reported to. I put it down below so you have just your title, then a space, and then in parentheses the dates that you're with that title. Okay, same thing here. Yeah, so I would rework that. And most of the times recruiters are looking at resumes online, and if we do print it, we usually double-side it, print it on both sides. So I find you don't have to have a title page on the second page, but that's a personal preference. It kind of breaks up the flow a little bit, because most of the time we're looking at them online. Honors. Yeah, it's a great resume. Oh, go Hawks. There you go. Okay. I won't.
Now it's even better, huh?
Yeah, I won't say. Yeah, I'll hire. You're hired. Okay. I won't sing the Iowa fight song. So
Right, we're just about out of time here. I really don't have time to look at the second one, so
sorry.
That's okay.
If you have urgent questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Right. For those people who are on Facebook, I have posted the sample resume in the chat window, so you can download it there. Or if you need to get any of these documents, you're welcome to send me an email at webmaster@careerfw.org. Tell me what you're looking for, and I will be sure to get those sent to you. Just as a reminder, we're putting on training sessions every day of the week starting next week. Starting Monday, we'll be doing a networking session, how to network or not work. All the fundamentals of networking. I've got a bunch of different speakers lined up. Tuesday, LinkedIn, Wednesday, interviewing, Thursdays, effective resume, every day at 1 o'clock. And then Fridays at 9:30 in the morning, the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meets. So tell your friends, if you know somebody who's not on the call who maybe could take use of this, please let them know about these sessions. Tomorrow at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group at 9:30, Keep your eye on the prize, continuing to learn and adapt for career success. On Monday, starting off our Networking Monday session, Carol will actually be our speaker talking about the secrets for effective networking. We've got like 10 or 12 different speakers that are lined up for the next 10 or 12 weeks. And so every week will be a little bit different information about how to network, where to network, what you should be doing, and you'll learn tips and tricks all throughout the Monday. On Tuesday, our LinkedIn presentations with Bruce Lipsky. She'll be talking about LinkedIn search engine optimization. On Wednesday, Interviewing Wednesdays, we'll be on session number 9, how to demonstrate enthusiasm in changing careers or industries, how to go about doing that. Just as a reminder, this session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel. Please follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate that. If you're not receiving emails about any of our workshops, if you happen to hear about us from a friend, we're putting out 6 or 7 emails a week, so we don't put out too many, but the emails will have the Zoom links and the important links that you need to be able to watch our shows during the week. You can send an email to Career USA plus subscribe at groups.io. I'll have this email address up at the very end of this presentation. On YouTube, here's what that looks like. Be sure, pick the list that you're looking for, effective resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn, and don't click on the video, but click where that red arrow is and says view full playlist. And when you do that, up will pop a list of all the different events with the dates and the topics and what they've talked about if there's a topic for the week. All right, it's about time. Let's give away 2 licenses to jobscan.co. We're going with the Price is Right. It must be closest without going over. So what we need you to do is, if you'd like to be part of this, put a number in between 1 and 100, and somebody will pick the 2 closest numbers without going over. Give everybody a couple seconds to do that. Anybody else want to compete? And I guess I should delete the 1, because if you picked 1, how can you, well, you'd have to put 1 in for a winning number. Well, that's okay. I didn't pick 1 for a winning number, so just, okay. All right, everybody's had an opportunity. Let's see what our winning number is for today. It is 32. So, well, I see a 28 and I have a 27 on Facebook. So a Daniel on Facebook for 27 and 28 from Billy. What I need you to do, if you will, please send me an email so I have your contact information. So you need to send an email to either webmaster@careerdfw.org or find me on LinkedIn and send me a note through LinkedIn telling me that you are our winners, okay? All right, let's see here. So just as a reminder, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. We survive on donations. Locke is a volunteer, Carol's a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 12 or 13 years has been as a volunteer. I don't get paid to do this. Is what I do to give back to help you. We survive on donations. It pays for Zoom. It pays for the LinkedIn, for the names on web names. It pays for our web hosting. Please consider, when you get your next job, please consider making a donation so we can continue to provide the services that we do. So thank you very much for joining us today. Billy and Daniel, I'll look forward to getting your email address, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow morning or one day next week. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Locke.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Locke. Okay. Bye, everyone.